It's been nearly 11 years since Derrick Rose was named the league MVP back in 2011, the last time a Chicago Bull was crowned the MVP, and the first player to do it since Michael Jordan. At the same time, it was an incredible feeling for Bulls fans because Rose became the youngest player in NBA history to ever win an MVP at the age of 22, and the future looked very bright for that young Chicago Bulls team with a budding superstar in Rose. Of course, injuries to Derrick Rose would derail his career, and the Bulls team, although remaining competitive in the Eastern Conference, never reached their ultimate goal of winning an NBA championship. Well, fast forward 11 years, and the Bulls have another player by the name of DeMar DeRozan who could have a chance to be crowned the league MVP. Now, if you're not a Bulls fan and coming across this video, before you click away and just say this dude is just a biased Bulls fan, of course he's going to think that DeMar DeRozan should win the MVP. Well, first of all, I'm not saying that DeRozan should win the MVP because it's still too early, but hear me out on why I think DeMar has a legitimate chance to win the MVP award, more so than I think most people are giving him credit for. So in today's video, we're going to assess the MVP race, where it currently stands, which is arguably the closest it's been in a long time in the NBA, who currently is in the lead of that race according to various MVP ladders, and where DeMar DeRozan stacks up against those who are at the top. Also, a big shout out to the sponsor of this video, BetUS, but more on that in a little bit. So what's going on, everyone? You were listening to Bull Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Guys, real quick, since I'll be going to the game tonight at the United Center, I will not have a live game chat for the game, nor will I have a post-game video tonight. I'll have one out tomorrow for it. But I am very much looking forward to the game. I'll be updating my Instagram stories while I'm there, so give me a follow on Instagram if you want to follow along. A link to that can be found in the description. But anyway, let's get back to the topic. So I think it's important to note that the MVP award does not always go to the best player in the league, which I think most people know that, but sometimes there is a common misconception that the best player in basketball should win the MVP. Well, if that was the case, Michael Jordan would have 12 to 13 MVPs right now. He doesn't. He only won 6, which is still an insane amount. And in the same breath, LeBron, right? He should have won more MVP awards really from about 2009 up until a couple of years ago. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on that point, but LeBron was the best player in the NBA for the better part of a decade. But again, LeBron doesn't have an MVP for all of those years. Like even in the season where Derrick Rose won the MVP, LeBron James was still the best player in the league. I think if Rose never got injured, he could have one day become the best player in the league. But at the age of 22, he just wasn't there yet, not better than LeBron James. But no, the MVP is exactly what the acronym stands for. The title of who it should be going to is the most valuable player in the league. Valuable player. Not the best player in the league. Sure, sometimes the best player wins it too, but it's the guy who provides the most value to his team when he's on the court versus when he's off. Now, of course, there are a host of other factors that go into MVP consideration, which I'll get into. But anyway, let's start with the current MVP ladder. This one is from NBA.com. They've got Nikola Jokic leading the way. Kind of surprising, I'll get into that. Followed by Joel Embiid, then Giannis, then you have DeMar at number 4, and 5th, Steph Curry. Now, I think there is a small outside chance that Kevin Durant could be included in this as well, but with his injury, it's unlikely, he'll win it unless he comes back and the Nets go on an absolute tear to where they finish top 3 in the East after they had fallen to the 8th spot. Again, showcasing his value when you see how much the team missed him with how poorly they've been performing while he's been out. But in any event, for me personally, if I were to rank the MVP race right now, as unbiased as I possibly can be, I would still put Joel Embiid at the top of the leaderboard. Like, yes, I want it to be DeMar DeRozan who's on top because objectively speaking, I do think Embiid has the edge over DeRozan, which I'll get into why. I then have DeRozan 2nd, Giannis 3rd, and I actually have Moran 4th and Jokic 5th. No, I do not think Steph Curry is in the top 5 for MVP consideration. Top 10, sure, but not top 5. And I honestly don't understand how anyone can consider him a top candidate for the MVP award. Like, I think because the Warriors are playing so well, they're one of the best teams in the league, and it was a bit surprised based on the fact that the last 2 seasons they missed the playoffs, and they were without Klay Thompson to start off the season. So naturally, Steph has been playing like an MVP to get the Warriors there, right? Well, if you actually look at his individual numbers, he's having the worst shooting season of his career, shooting 42% from the field and 38% from 3. Again, both career lows. He also has one of the lowest PERs in his career of 21.7. Yes, he's still Steph Curry and putting up great numbers. He's still one of the best players in the league, but he's really not having an MVP type season by his standards. Now, I mentioned Joel Embiid being at the top of my leaderboard, which DeRozan isn't that far behind. It's not like Embiid is running away with it. But when you look at what Embiid has been able to do in carrying the Sixers team who didn't have Ben Simmons. Tobias Harris was out at the beginning of the season. They traded for James Harden, but he's still yet to play. And you look at the numbers that Embiid has been able to put up, having one of the highest efficiency ratings in the league, elite scoring, both in the paint and mid-range shots, even three-pointers, he can hit those as well, but also his ability to crash the boards, play great defense in protecting the rim, and he's a solid passer for a big man. Like, the guy does it all, and he's leading the Sixers to yet again one of the best records in the NBA. All that being said, though, DeMar DeRozan, what has been more impressive about what he's been able to do is not only take the Chicago Bulls, who were a lottery team last season, to now sitting with the best record in the East. The guy is the most efficient player in basketball shooting from mid-range. He's been a great playmaker for the Bulls, extremely high basketball IQ, and how calculated he is on offense with his shot selection and decision-making when to pass the ball rather than shoot it. But above all, what he has over Embiid, DeMar DeRozan has been the most efficient player in the fourth quarter and the most efficient player in clutch moments. Embiid has been great in the fourth quarter as well, but DeMar leads the league in points scored in the fourth quarter, points scored in 2 minutes or less when the game is within 5 points, and he also has more game winners than Embiid does. And I actually believe he has more than anyone else on this list as well. It helps when you have back-to-back game winners like he had earlier in the year, buzzer beaters, I should say, because DeMar actually has had other game winners in which he scored the final basket of the game. Now, guys, of course, if you ever want to make a bet on who you think will win the MVP this season, then you got to go to BetUS, who is the sponsor of this channel, where you can pretty much bet on anything with their online sportsbook. They have loads of bonuses, referral bonuses, first-time deposit bonuses, and they're giving viewers of this channel an exclusive offer of 125% bonus from your first deposit. Who doesn't want free money, right? If you had to put your money on DeMar winning the MVP before the season started, and what those odds would be now, oof. I don't know what the odds were at the beginning of the season for DeMar winning the MVP, but I'm sure they were very low. Anyway, though, check out BetUS. The link to the site and the code can be found in the description. Now, Giannis and Jokic. I mean, look, I still think Giannis is the best player in the league, and arguably has been the past season or so. Kevin Durant is still right up there as well, and LeBron James is still LeBron James playing at an elite level, but his team sucks, so that's why he's not getting any MVP consideration. But Giannis, who is the best player in the league, and then Jokic, the reigning MVP, who is right up there as well. He's a top 5 player in the league. For both of these guys, they're playing at an MVP level. There's no question about that. And both of these players hold immense value to their teams, especially Jokic, who is playing without the Nuggets' second and third best players in Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. And he's still getting the Nuggets in playoff contention, but again, because team standings and records are a big factor when assessing an MVP, and the fact that the Nuggets, although yes, have been playing well without some of their key starters, they're still 6th in the West with a record of 34-25. The Bucks, the defending champions, have even struggled a bit as well. They're currently 36-24, tied for 4th in the East. And for Giannis, he has a great supporting cast around him in Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton. They just traded for Serge Ibaka. It's too bad he has the low-life Grayson Allen on his team, though. But either way, as great as both Giannis and Jokic have been this season, and how valuable they are to their respective teams, like both of these are likely lottery teams, maybe not the Bucks, but certainly the Nuggets if they didn't have either of their superstar players. But as great as they've been, it's not enough, at least where things stand today, to say, yeah, these guys deserve to win the MVP. Now, Ja Morant, I don't know why more people aren't talking about Ja as an MVP candidate. I know some people have been saying that here and there, but for the most part, people have just been focusing on his insane athleticism and highlight reels. But the dude can ball, and he's leading a Memphis Grizzlies team that was a bottom feeder just 2 seasons ago, got them to the playoffs last year by way of the play-in, knocking out the Warriors in the play-in game, to now having the Grizzlies be one of the best teams in the NBA, the Grizzlies. Do you know how hard it is to have a successful team in the NBA being located in a market like Memphis? The Grizzlies have a better record than the Bulls right now. Like the Bulls, they went on an insane winning streak as well. And don't get me wrong, Ja Morant has a solid supporting cast with Jaren Jackson Jr., Dillon Brooks, Desmond Bane, who for Brooks and Bane I really think have been able to excel and been the benefactors of Ja Morant's success with his great playmaking ability. So I do think that Ja should get more consideration or recognition than he currently does as an MVP candidate, because he's really been carrying that Grizzlies team and has turned them into legitimate contenders. But let's focus on DeMar DeRozan for a minute, because it's a Bulls channel and you know that's what I'm going to do. But for DeMar, what has been incredible about his run this season is that no one, really no one, would have predicted that DeMar DeRozan was going to win the MVP award this season or even be in consideration for said award. Part of it was because most people consider DeRozan a little past his prime, still a great player, but no longer an all-star, and of course, a lot of NBA analysts felt that DeRozan's game just didn't fit for today's NBA because of DeRozan's inability to spread the floor and inefficiency from the three-point line. Always harping on the analytics that the mid-range jumper shot was the most inefficient shot in the game of basketball. Either you shoot it within 5 feet of the basket or you take threes. DeMar DeRozan has completely taken analytics out of the question when it comes to the mid-range shot, proving all of the doubters wrong and showing that, sure, the mid-range shot is an inefficient shot if you can't make them. But when you're as lethal as DeRozan is in shooting from mid-range, it's not an efficient shot. DeRozan has been given the green light to do what he does best, revitalizing his career to being one of the best basketball players in the league. Like, when you talk about how valuable he is to this Bulls team, when you look at their record, his on-court, off-court numbers, how clutch he has been in the fourth quarter, earning that title of King of the Fourth Quarter. And yes, DeMar's had help with Zach Lavine. Of course, when you have another all-star player on your team, that is going to lower your chances for MVP consideration. And Lavine has been great. It's why most people consider DeRozan and Lavine to be the best duo in basketball. But DeMar has been able to do this without Lavine at times, whether it be from injury or COVID protocols. He's still been able to keep the Bulls winning. DeMar has also been able to do it without Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso, Javonte Green missed a fair amount of games as well. Also Patrick Williams, who was the Bulls' only power forward. Like, this is as impressive as it gets when it comes to value a player brings to their team. It would be a different story if the Bulls were 5th in the East or something right now, even if they were 3rd in the East. But to have the Bulls 1st in the Eastern Conference and keeping us around that top spot throughout the season is phenomenal. And I'm saying it right now, if the Bulls finish 1st in the Eastern Conference, which I think is probably unlikely given their schedule is going to get a little harder, they're still without their 2 best defenders, but it's not out of the question that they could still finish 1st. And if they finish 1st, DeMar DeRozan will win the MVP. Of course, if he continues with this kind of play. I mean, the dude has been breaking records set by Chamberlain in the 60s, like, that's all you need to know. But I want to know what you guys think, trying to be as objective as possible. Where do you think DeMar ranks on the MVP list? Let me know in the comments, and guys, as always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I do post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.